Amazon Web Services, AWS. You've definitely heard the name. It's famous for being unbelievably powerful, but let's be real, it can also seem just a little bit complicated. Well, we're going to fix that today. All right, let's jump right in and break down the biggest cloud platform in the world into pieces that actually make sense.
So to get started, let me just ask you a quick question. I want you to think about streaming your favorite show on Netflix, grabbing a Big Mac, and a high-tech factory floor churning out products. What on earth could possibly connect those three things?
Yep, you guessed it. The answer is AWS. From the shows we binge watch, to the global operations of a fast food giant, all the way to predicting when a machine on a factory floor is about to break, millions of customers, from the hottest new startups to the biggest companies on the planet, all rely on AWS.
So what exactly is this thing they're all using? Well, at its heart, AWS is basically a gigantic worldwide data center that you can rent a piece of whenever you want. This is the engine that drives cloud computing, and it completely changed the game, shifting us from buying technology to just renting it.
This slide really just nails the difference. The old way, you had to buy these super expensive physical servers, wait months for them to show up, and then take a total shot in the dark guessing how much power you'd need. And if you guessed wrong, you either wasted a ton of money on machines just sitting there, or your website would crash the second it got popular. The AWS way just flips that whole model on its head. You get virtual servers in minutes, you only pay for exactly what you use, and you can scale up or down instantly. It's a total shift from slow and risky to fast, cheap, and flexible.
Honestly, the best way to think about AWS is like a giant, bottomless box of digital Legos. It gives you over 200 different services, and each one is a unique building block designed for a specific job. You can snap these blocks together to build pretty much any app or system you can dream up. So, let's look at a few of the most important ones.
First up, you've got Amazon EC2. This is the absolute workhorse, the engine room of AWS. EC2 gives you virtual servers. They call them instances in the cloud. This is where your code runs, where your websites live, and where you process your data. You get total control, just like a physical machine, but with none of the hardware headaches.
And because it's so flexible, you can use it for almost anything. I mean, running web applications, crunching huge data sets for scientific research, setting up safe places to test new code, or even building a backup system in case of a disaster. It's the Swiss Army knife for computing power.
Okay, next up, you need a place to put all your stuff, right? That is Amazon S3. Just think of it like an infinite, indestructible filing cabinet in the cloud. It's built to hold any kind of file, images, videos, backups, you name it. And when I say indestructible, I mean it's designed for 99.999999999% durability. Yeah, that's 11 nines. It's kind of mind-boggling.
You see S3 everywhere. It's storing all the images and videos for your favorite websites. It's used for critical data backups. You can even host a whole website directly on it. And maybe most importantly, it acts as a massive data lake, a central spot where companies dump all their raw data so other AWS services can analyze it and find valuable insights.
Of course, a lot of apps need a really organized way to store data. And for that, you need a database. Amazon RDS makes it incredibly easy to run those traditional databases you might have heard of, like MySQL or Postgres, and the magic word here is managed. RDS handles all the boring, tedious stuff like updating software, making backups, and scaling up, so developers can just focus on building cool things instead of being database janitors.
Okay, so we've got compute, storage, and databases. But remember, there are over 200 of these Lego blocks. And this is where the power of AWS also becomes a fun challenge. How in the world do you pick the right tool for the job? Let's stick with databases because it's a perfect example.
This slide illustrates it perfectly. On one side, you've got RDS, that relational database we just talked about. It's great for complex data, like all the orders for an e-commerce store. But on the other side, you've got DynamoDB, a totally different kind of database called NoSQL. It's built for one thing, insane speed and scale. Think about a video game leaderboard that has to update instantly for millions of players. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to hang a picture, right? The point is, AWS gives you a specialized tool for every specialized job.
Now, having all these powerful building blocks is awesome, but they can't just be floating around in space, right? They need to be able to talk to each other and to the internet, and most importantly, you have got to lock everything down and keep it secure.
This is where two absolutely critical services come into play. First, Amazon VPC, or Virtual Private Cloud. This lets you carve out your own private, isolated slice of the AWS cloud. Think of it like building your own digital fortress with high walls and a moat. And then you've got AWS IAM. If VP sees your fortress, IAM is the super strict security guard at the front gate, checking every single ID. It lets you control exactly who gets in, where they can go, and what they're allowed to touch. Together, they are the bedrock of your cloud security.
So far, we've basically been talking about renting virtual machines in a giant data center. But what if we could take it a step further? What if the whole idea of servers and infrastructure could just become invisible?
All right, so up until now, our model has been centered on this idea of a virtual server, an EC2 instance that you have to set up, configure, and keep an eye on. It's powerful, but you're still managing a server.
But here's a wild thought. What if you could just run your code without ever having to provision a server, patch a server, or even think about a server ever again?
Well, welcome to the world of serverless computing and its star player, AWS Lambda. Lambda is event-driven. That means your code doesn't run 24/7. It only wakes up and executes in response to a trigger, an event. Maybe an image gets uploaded to S3 or a user hits a button in your app. The code runs, does its job, and then goes back to sleep. You only pay for the milliseconds it was running, and it scales automatically from one request to millions without you lifting a finger.
And the things you can do with this are incredible. Imagine automatically creating a thumbnail the instant a new photo gets uploaded, or building the backend for a mobile app that can handle going viral overnight, and you don't have to do a single thing to handle the traffic. It's perfect for processing data in real time and automating all sorts of little tasks.
Okay, so we've seen all the individual Lego blocks. Now for the really fun part. Let's snap them all together and see what's possible when you combine these services to solve a real, complex, honest-to-goodness problem. Let's go all the way back to that factory assembly line. Here's how manufacturers use AWS for something called predictive maintenance. First, little IoT sensors on the machines are constantly streaming data into AWS. That data gets stored in S3 and then fed into powerful machine learning models. Those models learn to recognize the tiny little patterns that happen right before a machine fails. And then, once the model predicts a machine is about to break, it automatically sends an alert to schedule maintenance before it actually happens. It's brilliant.
And the impact of this is just staggering. For one big industrial company, putting this kind of system in place led to a 25% reduction in equipment downtime. That is a massive number. It saves a huge amount of money and makes the entire operation more efficient. This isn't science fiction. It's transforming industries right now.
And it's getting even smarter. The next step isn't just getting an alert, it's being able to interact with the data. Imagine an engineer on the factory floor being able to ask in plain English, what was the pressure variance on machine 7 right before it failed yesterday? And using new generative AI services from AWS, they can get an immediate, understandable answer. This is the future of how we're going to interact with complex systems.
So there you have it. We've gone from virtual servers to serverless functions, from data storage to artificial intelligence that you can actually talk to. AWS provides this incredible, ever-expanding toolkit of digital building blocks. At this point, the only real limit is your imagination. So the final question is pretty simple. You've seen the building blocks? What will you build?